The moment everything stopped, air in the studio was thick. Not with smoke or sound, but with something heavier tension. The kind of tension that presses into your chest and makes your breath sit too long inside your lungs. Lights above buzzed softly. Cameras were rolling. Assistants moved like ghosts, silent and fast. But all Keanu Reeves could focus on was Ana de Armas. She sat at the far end of the rehearsal space, clutching a folded script too tightly, her fingers white from pressure. Her eyes stayed low, her shoulders curled inward. Something wasn't right. Keanu had seen her laugh. He had seen her glow on set. But this wasn't that version of her. This was someone dimmed, and then it happened. A voice, loud, harsh, commanding, cut through the room. "No, Anna. That's not how it's written." The director, angry, frustrated, tired, his tone wasn't sharp like a knife. It was more like a hammer blunt, crushing, final dot. Anna flinched. Not a small twitch, not a playful jolt. It was deep, like her body remembered something before her mind did. Her eyes widened, her back stiffened, and her whole face seemed to collapse inward, as if she'd been pulled into a memory she didn't want to see again. Keanu saw it. He didn't speak, didn't react like the others, some of whom just looked down at their phones, pretending they didn't notice. He stood up, no words, no noise. He walked across the room, his boots soft on the polished floor. Anna looked up, startled, as if unsure what he was about to say. But he didn't speak. He gently placed a hand on her shoulder. Then he nodded toward the exit, without a script, without his coat, without telling anyone where he was going. He left with her outside. The sun had dipped behind the clouds, casting soft shadows across the studio parking lot. The world was quieter out there. The buzzing was gone. The pressure lifted. Anna stood by the edge of the lot, arms wrapped around herself. Keanu stood a few feet away. Silent. He didn't ask questions. He didn't demand answers. He just waited. After a moment, Anna spoke. "I'm sorry." He turned his head, surprised. "For what?" he asked softly. "For making a scene. For reacting like that. You should have." He stopped her with a gentle hand raised between them. "You don't have to explain pain," he said. "It just is." She looked at him, confused by his calm. "I've worked with people who yelled before," she whispered. "But it's not the yelling. It's the memory of it. It takes me back." Keanu's eyes didn't blink. "Do you want to tell me about it?" he asked, not pushing, just offering. She shook her head. "Not now," she said, her voice breaking. "But thank you for leaving, for seeing me." Keanu nodded. "No one should flinch like that," he said. "Especially not in a room full of people." Anna took a shaky breath. "They'll think I'm weak." Keanu looked at the ground. Then, "Back at her? Maybe," he said. "But only if they don't know what strength really looks like." They didn't go home. They didn't go to dinner. They walked through the streets of the quiet neighborhood behind the studio, past small houses with rose gardens and fences, past a bakery with closed shutters, and down a narrow path that led to a quiet park bench beneath an old tree. They sat in silence. Anna finally spoke again. "I used to hide in places like this," she said, "when things got bad. When people shouted at home, I'd sit under trees. I felt safer there than anywhere." Inside, Keanu didn't interrupt. She went on. "I was 6 the first time someone yelled like that," she said. "I dropped a glass. My father, he didn't hit me, but he didn't need to. His voice did something to me. Ever since, loud voices. They make my skin crawl." Keanu looked ahead, eyes on the soft branches above them swaying in the breeze. "I believe you," he said. Anna blinked. "I never told anyone that," she said. "Not even my therapist. I don't know why I told you." Keanu smiled gently. "Maybe because I didn't ask for a reason." She nodded. I think that's what I needed," she said. "Not fixing, not pity, just someone to sit with me under a tree." Keanu leaned back on the bench. "I know what that feels like," he said. "To need silence that listens." Hours passed. Sun fell behind the buildings. Anna's phone buzzed. She didn't check it. Keanu single quotes his phone had been off since they left. No one came looking, no one needed to. Because, in that small park, something real had taken shape. Not romance. Not rescue, just presence. Just respect. The kind that doesn't need words. Anna turned to Keanu as they both stood up. "I don't want to go back in there," she said. "You don't have to." He replied, "But I will," she added. "Because I don't want to be afraid forever." Keanu nodded. "Then we go back together." And in that moment, Anna realized something she had never understood. Before, bravery wasn't loud. Bravery was silent. Bravery was choosing to return even. After your soul had been shaken, and sometimes it looked like a man in black boots walking beside you, never asking why you needed him there, only knowing that you did. Whispers beneath the surface heath. Next morning arrived too fast. Anna stared at her reflection in the bathroom mirror, eyes heavy with everything she hadn't said out loud. Her hair was still damp from the shower. Studio call time was in an hour. Her fingers trembled as she reached for her makeup. Brush, not from fear, but from memory. She kept hearing the echo of that voice, the one that made her flinch. It wasn't even about the words. It was the tone. The sudden change. The sharpness. It's always pulled her back to a version of herself that she thought she had left behind. But yesterday someone saw her. Really saw her. Keanu didn't ask her. To explain, he didn't tell her to toughen up. He just walked beside her. And today, because of that, she decided she would walk into the studio, not as someone hiding her pain, but as someone choosing to face it. The studio lot was busy again. Fans rolled in. Grips set up gear. Extras gathered near the catering table, laughing over paper cups of coffee. But when Anna stepped out of her car, it all blurred except for one person. Keanu stood near the entrance of stage 9, leaning against the wall with his hands in his jacket pockets. He wasn't looking around. He wasn't checking his phone. He was waiting. When he saw her, he gave a small nod. Nothing grand. Nothing performative. Just enough to say, "I'm still here." Anna walked up to him slowly. "You didn't have to wait," she said quietly. "I know," he replied, "but it felt right." They stood in silence for a few seconds. Then she smiled just a little. "I'm scared," she admitted. "Good," Keanu said gently. "That means you care." Inside the soundstage, the atmosphere had shifted. The director kept his voice lower that morning, gave quiet direction, checking his notes more than he barked orders. Maybe someone spoke to him. Maybe he realized something was off. Or maybe silence is louder than people think. Anna stood on her mark. The camera was focused. The scene was ready. But she felt a tightness in her chest. Not panic. Not fear. It was something deeper. It's an urge to be understood, not just directed. Before they called action, she took one small step back from the spotlight. She looked toward Keanu, who stood off to the side. Waiting for his cue, he caught her eye. He didn't move, but he mouthed something. "Breathe." She closed her eyes, inhaled, exhaled, then stepped back into the light. Action. The scene flowed. Her voice stayed steady, her eyes focused. Her body didn't flinch. But somewhere between the second take and the fifth, Anna saw something in her. Costa's face tension, a doubt, something that wasn't in the script. She stepped off her line, gently improvising, letting her instincts guide her. When the scene ended, the director stood still for a moment. Then he clapped once. "That's it," he said. Finally, real emotion. Anna froze. But this time, not. In fear, she felt the weight lift. It wasn't praise she cared about. It was that for once. She didn't abandon herself just to survive the scene. She stayed present, and for the first time in weeks, she felt proud of her own voice. Later that afternoon, between takes, Anna sat outside on the steps of the trailer, sipping tea from a paper cup. Her hands were still, her shoulders relaxed. Keanu sat beside her. "You were brilliant today," he said without looking at her. "Thank you," she said. "I didn't think I'd be able to do it." "But you did," he said. She looked down at her cup. "Do you ever wonder if healing is real?" She asked suddenly, like, does it ever actually happen? Or do we just learn to hide better? Keanu was quiet for a while, then he answered, I think healing is like walking in a fog, he said. You don't see the clearing until you're already in it. Anna blinked. So I should keep walking. If you can, and if you can't, rest. But don't go back. His words weren't poetry. They weren't dramatic. They were honest. And somehow, that mattered more. As evening came, they wrapped for the day. Anna stayed behind a little longer, picking up her things from the dressing room. That's when a soft knock came at the door. She opened it. Not Keanu, one of the younger.
A crew member's a girl with bright red hair and nervous eyes.
Hi, she said shyly. I saw what happened yesterday, and I wanted to say thank you. Anna tilted her head, confused. For what? She asked. For not pretending, the girl said. I flinched too, and seeing someone like you stand up and come back, it helped. Didn't know what to say. She simply reached out and gave the girl's hand a gentle squeeze. Thank you, she whispered. And as the girl walked away, Anna stood still. Heart fuller than it had been in weeks. Her pain had spoken to someone else. And maybe, just maybe, that was part of healing too, as she stepped out of the building. The air was cooler now. Keanu was leaning against the side of her car, arms crossed. He looked up and smiled. Ready to go? He asked. She nodded, but before she opened the door, she turned to him. I'm not okay yet. Shh, she said softly. Keanu looked into her eyes. You don't have to be, he replied. Just don't pretend you are. Anna smiled. This time, not small, not unsure, but real. The kind that comes after. You survive something. The kind that says, I'm still here, and someone saw me. When silence speaks louder than famed Keanu, Reeves had always moved through the world like a shadow come, thoughtful and unnoticed, unless he chose to be seen. But after that day on set, people began to notice him for a different reason. For his roles. Not for his fame, but for his quiet choice to walk out with Anna. It made people talk, and the whispers reached her too. She heard them behind closed doors, dressing rooms near the makeup chairs. He's getting too involved. Maybe he just feels sorry for her. She overreacted, right? It was just a voice. Anna stayed quiet. She let the whispers float past her, but they stuck sometimes like invisible. Paper cuts, small, thin, but they stung when she moved on the third day. Everything changed again. The scene was simple. Keanu and Anna were supposed to act through a calm dinner conversation, but as the camera rolled, Anna stumbled on a line. She paused, then tried again. The director sighed. Not loud, not angry, but just enough to make the air tighten. Anna froze. Not like before, but just enough for Keanu to notice. He didn't call it out, didn't draw attention. Instead, he reached across the fake dinner table, picked up a prop glass, said a line that wasn't in the script. Sometimes, he said softly, people forget to breathe. Anna looked at him and she breathed. They kept the take. It was better than what was written. Realer. Deeper. It didn't matter that it wasn't in the script. After the scene, Keanu whispered, You okay? Anna nodded slowly. Better than yesterday. That was enough. By the afternoon, Anna sat alone on the edge of the lot, near the sound trailer. She had turned her phone off again. It was becoming a habit, disconnecting from the outside world to reconnect with herself. Keanu found her there, holding a small notebook in her lap. What's that? He asked. I used to write in it when I was younger, she said. Poems. Thoughts. I stopped for years. Picked it up again last night. He smiled and sat beside her, not asking to read it. Do you want to write something now? He asked. Gently, maybe, she said, then looked at him. Do you ever write? Keanu nodded. Double quotes sometimes. When things don't make sense, or when I feel too much. Anna looked away toward the sky. I've been feeling too much, she whispered. And too little. Both at once. That's grief, Keanu said. Sneaks up. Not just for people, but for old versions of ourselves. She stayed quiet, letting the words settle. Then slowly, she began to write, not for a movie, not for anyone to see, just for herself. And he stayed beside her, Watching the wind move through the trees the following week brought something unexpected. The director invited Anna to his office. She went, unsure of what was waiting for her. Inside, he stood with his arms crossed, eyes slightly tired. "I owe you an apology," he said. Anna blinked, double quotes. "What?" "For how I spoke to you, for not noticing, for not asking." She didn't expect it. She didn't even know if it felt real yet, but she nodded. Double quotes. "Thank you," she said. "I'm trying to show up. Every day." "I see that now," he said. "And you're doing more than showing up. You're carrying this role with something most actors don't bring: truth." When she walked out of the office, her heart felt strange. Not healed, but lighter. And as she stepped outside, Keanu leaned against the wall again. Waiting, she smiled. "He apologized," she said. "Good," Keanu replied. "Do you think he meant it?" She asked. Keanu thought for a moment. "I think what matters more is that you meant what you said." Keanu nodded slowly. "You know, I used to think strength was being unaffected, not flinching, not breaking. What do you think now?" Asked. She looked down at her hands. "I think strength is staying kind, even when you've been shaken." Keanu smiled. "Then you're one of the strongest people I've ever met." A few nights later, after a long shoot, Anna sat alone at a small cafe near the studio. She didn't expect anyone to join her, but then she heard the sound of a chair being pulled. Keanu sat down with a soft smile and a steaming cup of tea. "Didn't." "No, you liked this place," she said. "I don't," he said. "But I figured if you were hiding here, it must be good." She laughed gently. "I'm not hiding, just resting." "Same thing sometimes," he replied. They sat for a while. No lines, no scripts, just quiet. Anna looked at him with a new kind of clarity. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. "Why stay close like this?" Keanu looked into her eyes. "Because I know what it's like to carry pain alone," he said. "I know what it feels like when someone simply sits with you through it." "Did someone sit with you?" she asked. He hesitated, then nodded double quotes once. "Years ago they didn't fix me. They didn't even speak. They just stayed, and it saved me." Anna whispered. "You're doing that for me now?" Keanu replied. "You're doing it for yourself. I'm just here to remind you that you're not invisible." She felt her chest grow tight, not from sadness, but from gratitude. Deep, quiet gratitude. As the evening closed and they walked back to the car, Anna paused. "You know what I realized?" she asked. "What?" "I flinched that day. But now, when I think about it, what I remember more isn't the yelling." "What do you remember?" he asked. "You?" Keanu stood still, not out of pride, but out of something. Deeper humility. He had never wanted to be remembered for walking out of a scene, but maybe, sometimes walking away is the loudest way to stand by someone. The quiet between two heart stays past, but something had shifted. Not on set, not in the script, but inside Anna. It was quiet, like when you don't realize. The pain in your chest is gone until you finally breathe without it. She still carried. Wait, yes. But now it wasn't crushing her. She stood straighter. Her voice felt steadier, but it wasn't because someone told her to be strong, because someone gave her space to be soft, and that someone was Keanu on a Wednesday afternoon. The studio was unusually calm. Some crew were out sick. A few scenes had been rescheduled. The day felt half asleep. Anna sat in the makeup trailer, flipping through her notebook, the one she had started writing in again. She paused on a page she didn't remember writing clearly, just 5 words scribbled in the center. He waited when no one did. She touched the words lightly, as if afraid to smudge their meaning. Then she heard a soft knock. "Come in," she said. Keanu peeked inside. "You free?" he asked. "Depends," she smiled. "Free for what?" "A walk," he said simply. They didn't go far. Just behind the studio lot, there was a narrow trail leading to a small hill with a bench at the top. Most people ignored it. Too quiet, too plain. But that's exactly why they went. They walked in silence at first. Anna Let the breeze play with her hair. Keanu walked with his hands in his pockets, his steps unhurried. Once they reached the top, they sat, the city stretching quietly in the distance. This spot feels like it doesn't care who we are, Anna said, almost to herself. Keanu nodded. That's why I like it. Anna looked at him, a question rising in her chest. Can I ask something a little personal? Of course, he said. What did you flinch from? The person who sat with you. What were they helping you through? Keanu looked out at the skyline, eyes far away. Losing someone, he said. More than one someone. Anna waited. She didn't need to hear the full story. The silence between his words told enough. They didn't try to talk me out of the sadness. He continued. They just let me be in it. They sat beside me on the floor of my apartment. No words, just their presence. Anna whispered, that's what you've been doing for me. He smiled. We all need someone who doesn't try to fix us. Someone who refuses to leave. Later that day, back on set, something unusual happened. During a short break, the young red-haired crew member, the same girl who once thanked Anna for not pretending, approached again, this time with a small piece of paper. I wrote this last night, she said, shyly handing it over. I don't know why, but I think maybe it belongs with you. Anna unfolded the paper. It was a poem, short, simple, unpolished but honest. I used to break in silence, but now I break in light, because someone showed me being seen doesn't mean being judged. Anna stared at the words. Her throat tightened. She looked up at the girl. Thank you, she said, barely able to speak. And as the girl walked away, Anna realized something important. Her healing wasn't just hers anymore. It was rippling out quietly. Invisibly, but real. That evening, as they packed up to leave, Anna stood by her car. Holding the poem in her hand, Keanu walked over, sensing something in her stillness. What is it? He asked. She handed him the note. He read it slowly then. Folded it again with care. You're becoming someone else's calm, he said. Anna smiled, eyes glistening. You think so? I know so. She looked at the sky, the sun dipping low behind the buildings. Do you think we ever stop flinching? She asked. Keanu paused. Maybe not, he said. But I think we flinch less when we're not alone. Days turned into a rhythm. Anna and Keanu showed up to set. They worked, they waited, they walked, and sometimes, without planning it, they sat together during lunch breaks or late evenings, watching the city turn gold. They never talked about what they were to each other. It wasn't friendship in the way most people define. It was something quieter, something steadier. Anna once said, "You're like a pause in the noise." And Keanu replied, "Maybe we're both learning how to live in the pause." One night, as they walked back toward the studio after a coffee break, Anna suddenly stopped. She looked at the sidewalk, her breath catching. "What is it?" Keanu asked gently. She pointed to a small crack in the pavement. "I tripped on that the first week of filming," she said. "I scraped my hand but didn't tell anyone. I just kept walking." Keanu raised an eyebrow. "Why didn't you say anything?" "Because I didn't want anyone to think I was fragile." He took a step closer. "You're not fragile," he said. "You're just human." Anna looked at him. "That's the hardest thing to be sometimes." Keanu nodded. "But it's the most beautiful, too." They stood under the soft glow of a streetlight, shadows blending across the sidewalk. No makeup, no cameras, no masks, just two people who understood that some wounds never ask to be seen, but they still need someone to stand near them. And in that moment, Anna realized she didn't flinch when he raised his voice, because he never did, and maybe that, more than anything, was love in its quietest form. The day she didn't flinch, sky was gray that morning. Not stormy, not sad, just quiet. Like something was waiting. Anna stepped out of her apartment, wrapped in a loose jacket, her notebook tucked under her arm. Her eyes weren't tired like before. They were focused, gentle but awake. She had been waking up differently lately, not with fear. Not with the weight of pretending, but with something softer. The kind of strength that doesn't need to be loud, the kind that comes after sitting under trees with someone who never asked her to explain her pain. At the studio, a new assistant director had joined the crew. Young, confident, impatient, he moved fast, gave orders quickly, and didn't bother learning names. During rehearsal, he clapped his hands loudly to get attention. "Let's go faster, please. We don't have all day." Anna was mid-sentence in a quiet scene with Keanu when the voice cut across the room, sharp, sudden, jarring. It was the kind of voice that used to freeze her body. But something happened. Anna didn't flinch, not this time. She blinked once, let the sound pass through her, then finished the line. Her voice didn't shake. Keanu noticed it immediately. He saw the change not on her face, but in her posture. The way her shoulders didn't rise, the way her eyes didn't drop when the take ended. The assistant director moved toward her. "We're behind schedule," he said flatly. "Just keep up the pace." May looked at him calmly. "I understand," she replied. "No fear, no flinch, just clarity." He nodded and walked off without another word. Keanu stepped closer, speaking low. "You didn't flinch." Anna looked at him. "I noticed," she said softly. "I felt it too. Not panic, not pain, just ... presence." He smiled gently. "You stood taller today, I think," she said, "for the first time in a long time. I feel safe inside myself." During lunch, they sat in their usual quiet spot under the small tree behind the studio. The breeze was light. A few birds hopped near their feet. Anna opened her notebook. "Can I read you something?" she asked. Keanu nodded. She cleared her throat, then read, "I used to break, like glass dropped in dark rooms, but now I bend like branches in wind. I do not shatter, I sway." When she finished, she didn't look up immediately. But when she did, Keanu's eyes were misted. "That's beautiful," he said. "It's the first thing I've written that didn't come from pain," she said. "It came from surviving it." Keanu reached out and gently tapped the corner of the notebook. "You should share this one," he said. "Someone else might need it." Anna smiled. "Maybe I will." Later that evening, a small interview crew arrived on set for behind the scenes footage. Anna had been avoiding interviews for weeks. Too many questions. Too much pressure to say the right thing, but today, when they asked if she had a moment, she said yes. They sat her in a quiet room with soft lighting. "How has this film changed you?" the interviewer asked. Anna paused and said something she hadn't prepared. "It didn't change me. It reminded me who I was before the fear." The interviewer leaned forward. "Can you explain?" Anna took a deep breath. "I used to hide from loud voices, from expectations, from memories. Out. But someone walked beside me during all of that. Out. Pushing me, not trying to fix me, just staying. And it reminded me that I didn't need to hide anymore." "Someone?" the interviewer asked. "An actor?" Anna nodded slowly. "A friend." She didn't name him. She didn't have to. Some truths are too quiet to be shouted, too sacred to be explained. When the crew wrapped for the day, Anna walked out of the studio alone, but not lonely. Keanu was waiting by her car again, but this time, she was the one who smiled first. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded. "I did something today." "What's that?" "I didn't let the noise become me," she said. "I stayed who I was." Keanu's eyes warmed. "Then you've already won." Leaned against the car door, her eyes on the sky. "I'm not scared of voices anymore," she whispered, "because I've found my own." Keanu looked at her, silent then. With quiet reverence, he said, "And it's a beautiful one." They didn't need to go anywhere that night. They stayed parked under the quiet evening sky, letting the stars slowly appear above them. No music, no words, just breath and healing. In the memory of a time she once flinched hand, the quiet victory of no longer needing to. She didn't need saving, just someone whose stay-ed, final week of filming had arrived. Costumes hung in tidy rows. Camera crews moved with quiet precision. Call sheets were thinner now, each scene ticking toward the end. But something else hung in the air, something softer than goodbye. It was peace, Anna. felt it the moment she stepped on set. Not because everything was perfect, but because she was no longer afraid. She had survived the script, but more than that, she had survived herself, and that was the story no one saw. The last scene of the film was intimate, just Keanu and Anna, sitting on a porch set under artificial moonlight. No special effects, no dramatic monologue. Just a quiet conversation between two characters who had weathered their storms. As the director called action, Na took her mark, the cameras rolled, and in the scene she said something simple. I thought I needed someone to save me, but all I needed was someone who stayed when it got dark. Keanu, playing his role, looked into her eyes and he answered, Then I'm glad I stayed. They sat in silence for a few beats, just like in real life. Then the director whispered, Cut. No one clapped. Not because it wasn't good, but because something sacred had. It's just unfolded. Something no one wanted to break with noise. After wrap, there was the usual buzz. Photos were taken, props boxed away. Some actors packed fast. Others lingered. Anna found herself standing beside her trailer. Holding her notebook close to her chest, she flipped through it one last time. So, many pages filled now. Poems, thoughts, reflections. And then she felt a presence. Keanu stood beside her, a soft smile on his face. You ready? He asked. Not really, she said. But maybe that's okay. He nodded. Endings are strange like that. She hesitated, then held out the notebook. Will you read one? Keanu took it gently. He opened to a page marked with a dried flower. His eyes moved across the lines. Then he read out loud. I was not broken. I was waiting for one person to sit quietly beside my cracks and not ask me to explain them. He closed the notebook, gently handed it back. That's you, Anna said softly. No, Keanu replied. That's you, finally seeing your own reflection. She looked at him. Why did you really walk out with me that day? She asked. You never told me, Keanu thought for a long time, then answered with care, because I saw someone I used to be, and I knew what it meant to feel invisible while breaking inside. I couldn't let you walk through that alone. She felt her eyes, sting not from pain, but from being understood, deeply, completely, and without conditions. A few weeks later, Anna was invited to speak at a quiet gathering for young artists. No cameras, no reporters, just people with pens and notebooks, searching for light in their dark places. She stood at the front of the small room, no script, just her notebook in hand. She began. I used to flinch when people raised their voices. I thought that meant I was weak. I thought I had to get over it, bury it, toughen up. But I was wrong. She looked around the room. Every eye was on her. The truth is, she said, I didn't need someone to rescue me. I didn't need someone to fix me. I needed someone to sit beside me when I froze. Someone who didn't walk away when the room grew heavy. Someone who didn't need words to understand. She paused, then smiled. I found that person. His quiet, I remembered how to speak. That night, she sent a message to Keanu, just one line. I don't flinch anymore. I breathe. His reply came moments later, and you've helped others breathe too. She closed her phone, stood by a window of her apartment, looked out at the city alive, buzzing, wild. And she whispered something to herself she never thought she'd say. I'm not afraid anymore. Not of the noise, not of the silence, not even of herself. Because someone stayed, and in that staying, months how to stay for herself. Months. Later, at a quiet dinner, far from any cameras, Anna and Keanu met again. No red carpets, no fanfare. Just two people with tea in their hands and years in their eyes. Anna laughed as she shared a story about a new film. Keanu listened, smiling like he always did, like it was the first time he'd heard her voice. She leaned forward, resting her chin on her hand. Do you still sit with people who flinch? She asked playfully. Keanu chuckled. Only if they need me. She looked at him and said, Sometimes I still do. He smiled. Then you know where to find me. And just like that, they returned to their quiet rhythm. Not saving each other, not completing each other, just staying. And in a world that moves too fast, that forgets too easily, that talks too loudly, staying is the kindest thing one soul can do for another, and Keanu did it, without needing to speak, without needing to be seen. He saw her, and because of that, she saw herself, and never flinched again.